This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by State Farm Insurance.
If you are a homeowner, you already know sometimes it feels like you are in a constant battle. Your home versus the elements, wind rate, hot and cold. It can all cause damage, costing you thousands of dollars.
And whether your home has suffered a tiny bit of smoke damage or complete fire and water destruction, the cleanup process can leave you overwhelmed. In today's Angie's List report, what you need to know before hiring professionals to clean and restore your home.
It doesn't take much.
We had a little bit of a rain back in May, and during that time our sump pump failed, and we had about 4 inches of water throughout the finished basement downstairs.
To set you back thousands of dollars in damage, not to mention disrupting your family's life. So whether the damage is done by fire or water, you want to make sure you take the proper steps to get the restoration process started quickly and efficiently.
If you've had a fire or a flood in your home, the first thing you want to do is really assess the damage and then determine what providers can help you fix and return your home back to normal.
Angie Hicks, founder of Angie's List, says that's what restoration companies are trained to do. Homeowner Steve Westervelt says the company he worked with thought of things he didn't.
Well, the restoration company that we worked with, I thought, did an excellent job because they took pictures of everything that they were going to take out for repair. And that kind of helps because sometimes you just kind of forget what you had and what was taken.
Cleaning up water and smoke damage quickly is important because if left untreated, the damage can become a bigger problem, costing more money to repair. But before hiring the company to do the job, you need to do your research.
Finding one before the problem arises is always a good idea because you want to make sure that you do all your vetting, because a quick decision could result in more pain and headache down the road than spending a little extra time doing your research.
Companies that specialize in remediation and restoration are staffed with professional technicians who have extensive experience and use heavy-duty equipment to help remove mold, mildew, smoke, and odors from your home and belongings.
It's very important that when you have a major fire or flood and your contents are being packed out of your home, that the company doing it does complete photographic inventory, barcoding, scanning of all contents so it can be tracked from start to finish, from the home to the restoration facility and back into the home.
And Angie says some things may not even be worth putting back into the home.
When going through the items that you might have lost in the fire or the flood, you first need to assess what their value was, how much it would be cost to replace them, because that's going to help you make some of these decisions a little easier. Obviously, the sentimental things are going to be a lot tougher, but that sofa you paid $1,000 for, if it's going to cost $800 to repair it, you might want to just go ahead and get a new one.
So what has Steve learned from his experience?
Well, I think one thing that I would recommend to everybody is take pictures of what your contents items are, because if you think about it, if you closed your eyes and tried to think of everything you had in your living room, I guarantee you there's things you're going to forget.
Making the process of going from this to this quick and easy.
And sometimes the damage is done to items that can't be replaced, like old photographs. But depending on the type of damage, restoration professionals can clean them, deodorize them, and dry them.
And sometimes Mother Nature is not to blame for water damage in the home. The problem comes from inside. Water damage can come from many different directions.
So you want to make sure you're ready should the water start flowing. And joining us today to explain what you should do now to prevent disaster later is State Farm Insurance Agent Tom Prunty of Salisbury. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. So there are basically two different kinds of coverage depending on the damage, depending on the water damage. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. You'd have burst pipes, washing machine, hot water heaters, that type of thing, and then you'd have surface water and things like that. So depending.
If you have like water pipes breaking or your hot water heater busts or whatever, that's pretty much a homeowner's issue?
Yes, hot water heaters and washing machines are your biggest issue. Burst pipes would go in with that. And then we have the endorsement for the backup sewer and drain, which anybody in a municipality that's on a direct line of sewer and water, we suggest that they seriously consider that endorsement, because if like last fall, we had some claims on that because the pumps on the municipality
Right.
were overworked from extra water that we had, and it just backed up into the houses.
Sure.
Some pumps couldn't handle it.
It just couldn't handle it.
How about that? Okay, so what if, let's say I've got a basement and I've got water, but I can't figure out where it's coming from. What do I do?
Well, you have a couple of sources for that. It's either surface water, subsurface water, you know, so it's either coming through, water takes the path of least resistance.
Okay.
So if you have a crack or you have damage, it's going to find its way in. If you're not properly landscaped and sloped, it's going to find its way through. And then if, you know, right now we have so much water on the ground's saturated, so some of that subsurface water is going to work its way up through the floor,
Right.
through the basement floor, that type of thing.
So you mentioned sloping, you know, having slopes to our foundation. What are some other ways that we can prevent that water from getting into our house? Obviously, we don't want those slopes.
Right. Well, you want to drain, you know, your walkways, your driveways, your sidewalks, you want to have it sloping away from the house so the water's rolling off in the right direction. So you
Okay.
want to make sure that you have the right people excavate and do the job for you. You want to waterproof the foundation walls. You want to use sealant to seal cracks. Anywhere that you have a patio or anything joining the house, a sidewalk, you want to seal those. You just want to make sure that the water is moving properly away from the foundation.
And a sump pump is always a good idea.
Sump pump's a great idea.
Now, what about the washer and dryer? I mean, I've got these hoses back behind the washer. What do I do there to try to minimize what could possibly happen?
Regularly change and inspect the hoses on your washing machine. Your hot water heaters you want to inspect and make sure you have them checked regularly by a professional too.
Right.
But you know, your washing machine is an easy one. Every couple of years change the hoses, make sure the connections are tight, check for cracks and bulging and just deterioration.
Now, there are other sources of water we may not even think about inside our home.
You know, your ice maker can be a real problem if you know, and most of the the fridges will roll out on wheels, so you can change the filter. So you want to check those lines, and you want to make sure that you don't kink them or damage the lines putting them in and out. But an ice maker, disposals, dishwashers, you want to make sure that those lines are clean. Put bleach down them. All of those can be an issue.
You said something about putting a pan under your washer.
It's a great idea to have drains in the floors under your washer and always have a floor pan to just move that water away. Because slow leaks are your biggest problem in that you'll find a burst pipe, but you may not find a slow leak until it's done a lot of other damage to the house, and then that can in turn cause mold and issues that you have to pull up floors. And so you really, you just have to be diligent and stay on top of things and make a calendar like you do with your smoke detectors
Right.
where you're changing your batteries. You should inspect your hoses, inspect your appliances every so often.
Great, Tom Prunty, thank you so much. I'm going to be looking around the house a little bit more now, I can tell you that.
Yeah, how about that? Well, to read more about State Farm Insurance on how you can keep your home dry and free from disaster, go to delmarvalife.com and click on the Show tab.